Here we are talking more Brandon Aiyuk. There's some rumors circling similar to what we projected, predicted, continue to talk about. All conjecture, all smoke potentially, but where there's smoke, sometimes there's fire, sometimes there's not. But we're here to discuss the new rumors today that the Bills and the Steelers are eyeballing Brandon Aiyuk right now. And we talked about this all last night. So, this show is where you need to be, because we're not only are we ahead of the curve, and not only are we here whenever big news breaks, but we're preemptively here before big news breaks. I think that's the one takeaway. I think lately I've been getting excited about this show and the direction and how it feels walking into 2024 is that we're not just breaking news, we're preemptively talking about the topics that circle back around. And that excites me more than anything, more than the fantasy questions, more than anything, is getting out in front of some of this stuff. And yeah, we're kicking around some smoke, kicking some tires. Sometimes the fires aren't real, and that's the nature of this thing. And we're here to admit that. We don't have any sort of substantial offer or source on any of this. This is just conjecture that we're here to break down the likelihood of it. And if it were to happen, what would this look like? That's what we're here to do. If that's not what you want, I don't know what to tell you. Rashee Rice, 119 miles per hour. CT ESPN breaking some news on that. We'll pull that up. Becoming one of the better, most trusted news sources in Antonio Brown's network. Let me just tell you, we're going to be referencing that all year long. The Fantasy Football Show topics on screen begin right now.
Live from the FantasyFootballShow.com studios.
It's the Fantasy Football Show. Live!
Monday through Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern. Smitty is also live whenever news breaks.
From the FantasyFootballShow.com news desk, here is your breaking news.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have more Brandon Aiyuk conjecture, prediction, smoke and mirrors. There's no other way to put it than that there's nothing substantial really that you're going to find during smoke season that will, I think, please somebody that's saying, I want factual information only. Who's your source? We don't necessarily have the originating source. We try and break that down. Nobody's going to try harder than I am to find the originating source. We've done that live on a show before when it was the Barkley to the New England Patriots, I think, report, and we're like, let's go and try and find where this came from, and we reverse engineered it, and then on the live stream figured out where the post originated from and how everybody left off this and left off that. That's what we try and do here. But Brandon Aiyuk, this situation, Roz says Brandon Aiyuk is working at Applebee's now since the Niners won't pay him. That is actually a true statement. Brandon Aiyuk went undercover at Applebee's. It was a pretty entertaining thing. But again, this is all conjecture. This is all speculation, and we're just here to kind of kick around the potential idea of, let's say he went to Buffalo. Let's say he went to Pittsburgh. What could that look like? And is it even possible? Or is this just a bunch of people throwing a bunch of mud at the wall, hoping that they land something and potentially, look great later? We've seen this before. Remember the Deshaun Watson trade? It was like constant Deshaun Watson going here, going there. It's going to happen within 12 hours. It's going to happen within 24 hours. People are trying to make a name for themselves. There was a bunch of Chicago Bears stuff, like Fields will remain with the team per source, and then it didn't end up happening. The good news about my show is I don't come out here, rarely ever, once every 3 or 4 years, do you ever see me go, I have a source, I can't name it, I hate that game. Here's what's going to happen. I'm here just to talk about something that's in the spotlight. That's what I do on this show. If there's news, doesn't matter if it's probably going to be false, we'll tell you that. I'll go live to tell you that. I'll go live to shoot down the Brandon Aiyuk in Jacksonville Jaguar potential trade offer. We went live on that the moment that was spreading around. And what I said was, I don't think this is true, but we're here to talk about it. but it looks like a bunch of mud being thrown at the wall. In terms of this stuff here, I'll be honest with you. I don't think there's a lick of truth to the fact that the Bills and the Steelers are having an open, candid conversation about Brandon Aiyuk. I think that there are people that are close to these organizations that have had some sort of conversation where they said, would you look at Aiyuk? We'll look at anything. And then it gets run with, right? But we're still here from the perspective of what would it look like if this ended up happening? And are these actually viable landing spots? Now, if we break down the logic in these landing spots, think about it from a logical perspective. 28 overall, pretty decent draft capital to pull in a Brandon Aiyuk. Brandon Aiyuk, I hate to tell you, Niner fans, is not commanding a top 10 pick. If you think Brandon Ayuk's getting you a top 10 pick, I have a broken imaginary bridge to sell you. And I have water to sell you in a rainstorm. I've got everything. Whatever you need, I got it. I'll sell it to you. If you believe Brandon Aiyuk is a top 10 pick. Or I've seen some comments, hey, what if we just swap with the Cardinals, Smitty? As a Niner fan, what if I swap with and I'm not a Niner fan, but a Niner fan coming to me. I'm a Niner fan, Smitty. What if we swap the 4 pick with Brandon Aiyuk? Brandon Aiyuk is not even close to worth a rookie deal Marvin Harrison Jr. So none of this is, we can't talk about any of these teams right here. The 17 overall pick, Jaguars pick, is something where you could kick around that potential. Like, that is a potential conversation. But I venture to say that the Niners would also have to surrender some sort of later draft capital to make that work. The 17 overall is just way too expensive for Brandon Aiyuk when you can get a potential Brian Thomas Jr. on a rookie deal still here at 17. You could get the 5th wide receiver, the Keon Coleman, on a rookie deal over Brandon Aiyuk. And if Raj is still in here, or any of my other Niner people in here, mark my words, listen to the words coming out of my mouth. Your head coach, Kyle Shanahan, and John Lynch will be eyeballing Malachi Corley. Malachi Corley is potentially the next Deebo Samuel. And if I was the Niners and I couldn't get a deal done, and let me make this abundantly clear too, no one determines whether Brandon Aiyuk gets traded, because no fan, no coach, nobody. It comes down to a multitude of components, and when there is divide between the player and team and they can't come to terms on the contract agreement, and there's a big gap that cannot be closed, and that's present. That's factor one. That's component number one. And then an offer that a team can't refuse gets injected into that situation. Then you have the two components to execute a trade. That is all that matters. It doesn't matter what the Niners said. It doesn't matter what the Buffalo Bills said. We're not trading Stephon Diggs. Once that tweet went out and the divide got created again, and even though the gap wasn't contract related, the gap was seeing eye to eye. And once Diggs and the Bills were trying to line that up, and the Bills were like, we're not going to trade him. We're not going to trade him. And then Diggs sends out his tweet, created a gap that couldn't be closed. An offer came in they couldn't refuse. The Bills' offer was getting him out. That's the offer they couldn't refuse. Somebody taking on his contract is worth it to them. That was the offer that they didn't know if anybody would send them. They did, and Diggs is gone. So in the case of Brandon Aiyuk, it's not about how much do the Niner fans love him. It's not about what you think. It's not about what I think. I have zero impact on it. I don't know if he's getting traded. You don't know if he's getting traded. If his contract, if the team and Aiyuk are this far apart, if Aiyuk wants $27 million and the Niners want to give him $23.5 a year, or the guaranteed money is $15 million, $20 million off, he will potentially bank on himself in a contract year. It's not always likely to happen, but if they're far apart, there's no way Aiyuk signing a deal he's not even close to. He'd rather bank on himself. And at that point, he becomes a less attractive player to hold. And then it's just the Niners waiting for an offer they can't refuse. Those are the only two components that matter. It doesn't matter what anybody's opinion is. It doesn't matter how much you love Brandon Aiyuk. So if a team comes along and offers this offer they can't refuse, back to what I was saying, mark my words, if you're in here and you're a Niner fan, Raj, if you're in here, if anybody else is in here, I'm telling you right now, Malachi Corley, if you could swap this man for a rookie contract, free rookie Malachi Corley, you would be getting an absolute gem and marvel, the Deebo Samuel 2.0. And he plays in a way that it wouldn't conflict with what Deebo does, because he's an absolute yak yard machine, route running monster. The Niners would literally have the two best yak yard potential players in the National Football League in Deebo and Malachi Corley. Mark my words. I said that Aiyuk was going to be a potential star. And Raj remembers this. I went into his live stream. We're like, what wide receivers are you targeting? I said, Brandon Aiyuk. You want to target Brandon Aiyuk. I knew Brandon Aiyuk was going to be good. I'm telling you, Malachi Corley fits the Niners system, scheme, and would be ideal to replace Aiyuk if you were to go down that avenue. I'm just telling you, the Niner fans will fall in love with Malachi Corley. He's an absolute gem. He's the yak yard monster in this draft class. He's the Tank Dell that I told everyone about walking into last season. And everybody said, no, Smitty, he's too small. Smitty, he's too tiny, Smitty. This guy Tank Dell won't last. Tell me the last player that survived at Tank Dell's size. I don't need to tell you who the last player is. I don't need to tell you who the last player is that survived at Tank Dell's size, because not everything is copy and paste. Not everything can be extrapolated from one situation to the next. It's not that way. That's not how the world works. Everything is case by case, and Tank Dell was a monster. It was so easy to see coming, but yet everyone wanted to ignore the signs, but this channel, but us. Everybody wanted to ignore it, but us. But we don't ignore such things. We don't ignore greatness, do we? No, we run into the fire, and Tank Dell was a marvel. And Malachi Corley, wherever he ends up, will be a marvel. Nobody's been higher on Corley than your boy Smitty. I put it out there in January. I'm putting it out there with Leggett. Everybody's jumping on the Leggett train now, but Leggett and Corley are the mysteries of this draft. Ricky Parasol is a mystery of this draft. We know Ladd McConkey's great. Everybody loves him and sees him coming. He's also a marvel. If the Niners could get their hands on Ladd McConkey or Malachi Corley, those are mouthfuls there. Those two wide receivers would be gems in that system in San Francisco. So just a little bit of insight as to the potential replacement that you would want to go after if you were a Niner fan, if you were coming from that angle, that if you could get Malachi Corley, even Leggett, Ladd McConkey, you'd be in good hands replacing Brandon Aiyuk and be in a much better financial situation to go overpay for Brock Purdy next year. All right, so real quickly, Brandon Aiyuk. This news right here is the one that we're here to talk about. Brandon Aiyuk is reportedly, and this is just one source, and again, a lot of these sources are they're always referencing somebody randomly, like Patrick Pucci 2. Who the hell is Patrick? To be honest, I don't even know who Patrick Pucci 2 is. 49ers, Brandon Aiyuk is reportedly in the Buffalo Bills and Pittsburgh Steelers sites. Now, before we tear down this report, because there is no substantial evidence, I can tell you right now, that supports that claim. It's more so who's saying this, what source is saying this, how many people are talking like this, why are they talking like this, does anybody ever name a source anymore, or did they just say per source? That's all they say, per source. No evidence whatsoever. But let's break it down. Logically speaking, yes, the Steelers are an actual potential landing spot for Brandon Aiyuk. Why? Even if it's on the pure information of him tweeting out Tomlin, having some desire to be a Pittsburgh Steeler, opens the door to the conversation. The Steelers have been actively, potentially still looking for another wide receiver to put next to George Pickens. There's certainly some sort of potential of a marriage between Aiyuk and Pittsburgh. And if Pittsburgh's looking still for a wide receiver, they're still tempted. There's been JJ ties. There's been all kinds of, again, could be 99% smoke across the board. but there's certainly that Khan is looking to potentially make one more move, and Khan has been doing a great job. The Fields acquisition, setting up this team beautifully to maybe really make a run this year. And people can laugh at that and say Pittsburgh's going to be far off, but Pittsburgh was a playoff team last year that lacked a quarterback, right? And so you give a team like Pittsburgh with a coach like Tomlin that can do some things well, obviously, and there's some things to be desired with Tomlin. I get that, but you're talking about a team that got this far without a quarterback. Imagine what they could do if they could put it all together with the quarterback. I think Justin Fields is the guy. And backup plan is Russell Wilson. And you might say, Smitty, have you been paying attention? It's Russell Wilson, backup plan Fields. You think whatever you want, pal. It's April. It's April. Let's wait till September and see what's what. Even if, let's say, Russell Wilson starts week 1, Fields will take the job from him by week number 4. G Solo says, why are guys still trying to run with this? He is not going anywhere. Deebo did it. Deebo did it. Everybody welcome G Solo to the chat. He must be new. G Solo, welcome, pal. Appreciate you. Appreciate you coming in. Deebo did it. Everybody hashtag Deebo did it to him. Okay. Wipe your feet. 120 plus from the YouTube. 135 now from YouTube. Hit that thumb up button. About 70 to 100 popping in and out from Twitter. The Steelers are definite landing spot potential if things were to start unraveling. And like I said, the two components involved start coming to fruition. The dividing gap between contract and team, if that continues to get far and far apart. How could that get far and far apart? Well, there's a lot of reasons why it could continue to go in a negative direction. Devontae Smith, the ball is rolling on a contract extension where Devontae Smith could come in and get a big fat bag bigger than Ridley's. And if that happens, guess whose value goes up, at least in his mind? Brandon Aiyuk. If Stephon Diggs and the number getting kicked around for, Devontae Smith, the number getting kicked around for Devontae Smith is 25 to 26 million per year. I'm not saying that's going to end up being the case, but that's what's being reported. 25, 25.5. Some sources saying that he's trying for 26. Whether he gets it or not is another story. But I can tell you right now, the Niners are not wanting to pay $26 million for Brandon Aiyuk. Maybe they get to a 24.5, maybe 25 million a year if they just say screw it and they want to get it all done with 25.5. But what it really comes down to is the guaranteed money. Ridley's guaranteed money was 50 mil, and so you're looking at a very similar contract structure. And if Devontae Smith comes in and craps all over the 50 mil and Devontae Smith gets 60, 65, if CeeDee Lamb or JJ sign their extensions, even though they're far apart, miles and miles away from where Aiyuk's contract number will be, it is still an interconnected web that everything is connected. And when the top level contract gets pulled up, if JJ or Lamb get a $80 million guaranteed deal, sign a $95 million, who knows what JJ's guaranteed money is going to be or Lamb's guaranteed money is going to be. Ridley's was 50, but you think that Lamb or JJ could get 90, 80, 100. Who knows what it will really be, but it will be in the range of $30 million per year for either wide receiver. There have been reports that JJ's rejected $30 million offers. Maybe he rejects that because the guaranteed money and incentives aren't right, but it sounds like we could be looking at $31, $32, $33 million a year for JJ, which again is not going to make Aiyuk worth $30 million, maybe in his mind, but it's certainly going to be, like I said, a connected web of when everything's kind of touching with the web spread all over all the contracts. And when you pull the top contract up, the web's going to pull up Aiyuk's contract proportionately. So if Aiyuk is worth $24.5 million right now, let's just say that's the valuation of what a lot of people come to terms on. He goes up to $28 million. He goes up to 27.5 instead of 27. Whatever the case may be, any contract that gets signed that's above or around Aiyuk is going to change Aiyuk's mindset, and it may not change the Niners' mindset. The Niners might have $23.5 million set aside, and that's it. That's that. And it doesn't matter what happens in the interim. if let's say something between now and June or July, when the Niners decide to take care of this, if 2 or 3 contracts come downstream and sign, and the Niners are like, doesn't matter, this is what we're going to pay, that doesn't affect us, it'll affect Aiyuk. And there's the divide. That's the rub. If there's a divide between player and team, and the divide being contract in this case, in the case of Diggs, it was seeing eye to eye and being a team player. If there's divide and a gap that can't be closed, now there's a vulnerability for a team to step in and go, hey, we'll offer him $27 million a year. I know you won't. And then the Niners go, well, crap, we're not going to pay that. And he's going to get that offer if there is an accepted trade request, or, well, you know, if this is a situation where a team can actually have this conversation and present an offer out there that Aiyuk can see. Aiyuk's going to go, I got $27 million here. And then he puts up a fuss. I'm not signing anything with you guys. Then the Niners could say, look, we'll call your bluff, or, hey, take it into the contract year and do your thing, boy. They could do that. But what is going to turn them away from that avenue, right? An offer they can't refuse. Hey, we'll give him $27 million. Well, we don't want to pay him that. What's the offer? Oh, well, we'll give you the 28 overall. And then all of a sudden the Bills or the Niners are going, well, we don't have him locked down. He's not going to sign. He knows his value to other teams is 27 mil. We only want to give him 24.5. We're getting offered the 28 overall, getting Malachi Corley on a rookie deal, getting Leggett on a rookie deal, getting Ricky Parasol on a rookie deal, getting maybe a Keon Coleman on a rookie deal. Who the hell knows who falls to 28 is better than having Aiyuk not signed long-term, walking out of next year. We regret not making the move. That is how a trade happens. People are so short-sighted about this topic for whatever reason. I think it's just because they, it's the fan base of the team. They're hell-bent on a player not moving. They're too excited about the player. They don't think it's possible. And so it's crazy to me that everybody has this mentality of these kind of things won't happen. Aiyuk staying, and Deebo did it. 24.5 mil is probably superficial. My projection, my valuation of Aiyuk is 24.5 mil. Now, the guaranteed money, again, is probably the more important number that I think the players, they probably focus on, the agents focus on, but the media doesn't. And so it doesn't really matter if it's 23.5, 24.5. What's the guaranteed amount? Is it 58 million? Is it more than Deebo's? Is it more than Ridley's? If Ridley's getting 50 million guaranteed, does it matter if it's 24.5, 24? Kind of does to the player, because it's like a flex, Hey, what are you getting paid? I'm 17th in the league in wide receivers per year average. That they flex on that. They definitely flex it. So there's certainly an aspect of the per year amount that the player cares about. But at the end of the day, if I'm Aiyuk and this thing's going, to the distance, and there's a lot of pressure, and he's missing workouts, and it does come down to getting a lower per year number than you really want to flex out there, but your guaranteed money 60 mil, then you go ahead and you punch it, So it really just depends on that. But I think 24.5 is about the ceiling for Brandon Aiyuk. In his mind, he might be wanting 26, 27. And it might come down to the Niners don't want to give him more than 58, 60 mil guaranteed. He wants 70. It's tough to know. And keep in mind that in Aiyuk's mindset, he's a top 5 wide receiver. In Aiyuk's mindset, he's a top 5 wide receiver. And he doesn't agree with you or me or anybody that says, bro, he's not up there with CeeDee Lamb, JJ, MHJ coming in, even though MHJ won't get paid like that. But you start valuing Jamar Chase and St. Brown, and you say to yourself, like, he's not top 5. He thinks he's top 5, and he's going to negotiate like he's top 5. He's not going to just settle for being wide receiver 12. So there is a divide here for sure. That's Aiyuk. We'll be opening the phone lines in a second. Rashee Rice, 119 miles per hour. Here's the mugshot from earlier when Rashee Rice turned himself into Dallas police. And this thing's getting bad by the second. It's getting worse and worse by the second. CTE ESPN becoming one of the more trusted news sources of this channel. I'll tell you that right now. Antonio Brown's making waves. You got to decipher and sift through the bad and the good on his feed, but he's been breaking some stuff, And when I mean break, I mean news and some other stuff too. But Henry Ruggs' speed record intact, says CTESPN. Henry Ruggs 156 miles per hour, Jordan Addison 140. What's interesting is that Hollywood Brown is ranking above Rashee Rice with 126 miles per hour. And so Need for Speed, PS5. This is a little doctored up image from CTESPN. CTESPN is from Antonio Brown. This is his news network. So we report on a lot of his stuff. Take it with a grain of salt when it comes in, but he's been right on a couple things, so we're taking it seriously. Antonio Brown, we are listening. But it is crazy to think that Hollywood Brown and Rashee Rice, here we are talking to Hollywood Brown up, putting him on a midseason monster list, saying Hollywood Brown to the moon. Hollywood Brown's a model citizen, but we got to keep in mind that he is actually driving 126. Now, he didn't crash and create a 6-car pileup and abandon the scene and run away like a coward like Rashee Rice did, but it certainly keeps, in perspective that there are a lot of players. Olave, 70. Come on, how did Olave? OJ Simpson, 50. Olave, 70 miles per hour. We do 70 miles per hour in the carpool lane with the kids in the back. So I mean, like that's weird. 70, maybe he was going he's going 35 over. So that was 35 and a 35. Okay, or 70 and a 35. I mean, I might have done that, here or there. I don't know that would be something where you're not paying attention, and maybe there's even a construction sign that knocked it down to 35 miles below. Whatever the case may be, I'm not judging Olave. Olave is fine. But these other 100-mile-per-hour racers, this is not acceptable, especially if you're racing in between cars and such. That's a whole different thing than being on an open road driving from Vegas to California or something, and there's no cars around and you're doing a buck 15. I'm not saying I would, but I've got 98, 95, 100 miles per hour before with no cars around whatsoever. But to do this in normal city freeway traffic is pretty insane, reckless. And then what's worse, it's not so much that he even got in an accident doing it. It's reckless, he did it, but the fact that he abandoned the scene, leaving 4 cars demolished and crushed, not knowing if anybody was in life-threatening situations. These guys get out of their car. This entourage, 2 cars full, 2 cars, one leased by Rashee Rice, the Lamborghini, driven by Rashee Rice, going 119 miles an hour, was the cause of the accident. He hit the median first, came over and swept the entire freeway clean where 6-car pileup happened. Rashee Rice leased the Lamborghini, owned the Corvette, 5 or 6 guys in this car, one from SMU, a cornerback. SMU has suspended the player. He won't be playing football. That guy's done. SMU did the right thing. The Chiefs might follow suit. The Chiefs might be pressured now to potentially release Rashee Rice or suspend him indefinitely. That way they don't have to deal with this because of the optics. Because SMU did it, maybe the Chiefs are going to do it. And this thing keeps getting worse and worse for Rice. People thinking Rice is going to get off. I've got news for you. I've it on good authority that this 8 counts that we're looking at, all felonies. One is a severe aggravated assault felony that probably won't get trumped down to a much lesser charge, and he pleads out of some really ridiculous disturbing the peace or loud noise complaint. He's not pleading down on some of this. I have it on good authority that the 8 counts could turn as high as 14. I've got it on good authority that the running away from the scene is not something they even need to present right now. This could be added on later. The counts don't get locked in. And what I'm hearing is happening is that Texas is going to make a statement. Texas is going to make an example out of Rashee Rice because racing, drag racing, car clubs, it's gotten out of control in a lot of states, but in Texas specifically, and they have been cracking down on racing, drag racing, and the fact that this guy crashed, didn't just drag race and they're making an example of him, didn't just crash and they're making an example of him, he crashed, created a 6-car pileup, going 119 miles an hour after partying and celebrating at a restaurant and running from the scene to maybe not, this is just opinion, get rid of any potential substance that might have been in the body, but cowardly running off the freeway. Not just him, but everybody in his party, in the two vehicles combined, not one of them had the common courtesy, the empathy, the sympathy, the heart, the compassion, the intelligence to go check on the individuals, or at least while you're walking off the freeway, call the police, ambulance, send somebody to the attention and aid of these people in these vehicles that you caused as a coward walking off the freeway. And the fact that people defend this man is crazy. This is going to get bad. It does not look and appear like the Alvin Kamara situation, which I admit looked really bad when the video footage dropped. This is going to be something different. This is Texas, baby. They don't put up with this stuff. This is probably the worst state you could have done this in. And I think that people that think that this is going to go away, and please don't defend this man. It's a bad look on you. It really is. This isn't going to go away. This is only going to get worse. I have it on good authority that it's going to get worse. This is probably going to be more than 8 counts. You're probably going to see the abandoning the scene being added later as a way of piling this stuff on top. I think Mike Florio even said that when he was talking about this on NBC, that they're potentially holding back some of the counts so that they can make this thing feel like it's getting out of hand, and that will trigger a plea, or I'm sorry, that will trigger a guilty plea, or a guilty, it won't be a plea agreement to dumb it all down, to water it down, to make it go away. That adding more counts on later and making this thing feel like he's getting drowned in more and more counts, up to 14 potential counts, could make him actually plead guilty. And if he pleads guilty, the NFL is coming down hard. If he pleads guilty, the NFL has certain policies in place to absolutely potentially suspend him for, there's going to be a real threat that he's suspended for the entirety of the 2024 season on the guilty plea. So prepare for this to get a lot worse. Don't expect this to be blown over. Don't expect this to be pushed under the rug. Don't expect this to be pleaded down. There's no settlement. This is not civil. This is criminal. When people say he'll settle, they don't know what they're talking about. Those people are regurgitating garbage reporting where people don't know this kind of information. Your boy knows what he's talking about here. I'm telling you, this thing it can't be settled. It can be pleaded down, but it doesn't sound like the Texas authorities or Texas state and the DA have any interest in playing this down. They don't even have an interest, because there's so many counts, up to potentially 14 that could be applied here, and there's a count for every single person, right? Injury and the aggravated assault one's the worst. There's so many counts here, and then the abandoning the scene, that he has to potentially plead guilty at some point. He cannot just plead this down to a dumb, watered-down thing. Not to mention, Texas has such a strong case here with all the camera footage. He's admitted he was driving the Lamborghini. The police report says the Lamborghini caused the crash. There's video footage of him abandoning like a coward the scene and walking off with his buddies. The SMU driver of the Corvette, cornerback of SMU, suspended. I don't know if he's been released yet. Suspended from SMU. Not playing football there anymore. All these factors make it so easy for the DA to win this case. There's no desire to plea. Why do you plea? Maybe this thing doesn't get won in court. Why do you plea? We want to make sure we win, because not winning is bad. Why don't you take something to criminal court as a DA? Because the odds of you winning aren't great, and you don't want to cost a whole bunch of money to go lose a case. The Deshaun Watson cases, for anybody that thinks they know what they're talking about in that case, everyone says, oh, see, they didn't bring any criminal charges against him. Clearly he was innocent. No. The police already said they felt like they had so much evidence against him that it was to them it was more of a slam dunk than people were making out to be. The DA felt there was vulnerability in some of the evidence, and that the cases would be tougher to win than not win, so the DA didn't bring charges. The DA decided we're not going to go after Deshaun Watson criminally. It wasn't because he was innocent. it was because the DA felt it couldn't win the case hands down. This case is winnable hands down. This case is a slam dunk. And he's even admitted to doing it. There's nothing here to defend. There's nothing here to defend. The only thing they can defend is why he left the scene to try and get the fleeing out of the conversation. And then we'll see what that is. But this is not a good look. This is not a good look. And if there is no evidence, if there's zero evidence of him calling the authorities, an ambulance, the police department, there's only a text message that he sent when he was walking off the freeway. They said immediately he texted the Lambo company instead of calling the police. Instead of calling an ambulance for the injured, he texted the Lambo company and said, "I'm sorry I crashed your vehicle. I'll buy it. I'll pay for it. My fault. I'm sorry. Goodbye." That's what he did as a coward. As a coward. There's all 8 are felonies. This could be up to 14. And it's only going to get worse. I think Rashee Rice is cooked. The rice is cooked for 2024. I wouldn't touch him in any draft. Buffalo Bills eyeballing, as mentioned here, a wide receiver. Eyeballing a wide receiver. Rashee Rice is out of the equation. So the KC Chiefs are also potentially eyeballing a wide receiver. So let's just put that out there. But they're more likely, in my opinion, to go the cheaper route. And the Kansas City Chiefs hold the number 32 overall pick down here at the bottom right. So the Chiefs could definitely be considering using this pick on a wide receiver. I believe that's the more likely avenue. They could certainly try and get their hands on a T. Higgins or Brandon Aiyuk. But getting Brandon Aiyuk from the Niners, a clear Super Bowl rival at least, even though they're across the pond in a different conference, it doesn't seem like a likely marriage, but it's certainly possible. If a team's unwilling to extend a player and they're ready to let them go, they clearly don't believe in the player enough to think, oh, this is going to be like sending, a top 5 guy over to the Kansas City Chiefs. If they felt that way, they would pay whatever they had to pay. It sounds like the Niners have a blank check ready for Brock Purdy, but they don't have a blank check ready for Brandon Aiyuk, which doesn't, in my opinion, make sense since Brandon Aiyuk is more proven than Brock Purdy at this juncture of the offseason and where we're at in both their careers. Brock Purdy has a lot to prove, but Jed York, owner of the Niners, appears to have a blank check ready and ready to reset the QB market for Brock Purdy. And he hasn't even played 2024 yet. Brock Purdy's not even a top 5 quarterback. And we're going to reset the quarterback market with Brock Purdy with a blank check? Thank God he finally shut up about Rice. Well, why don't you just go watch a different channel then, pal? There you go. Now you're free. You're free. Or you can be a little bit more respectful if you want to stay. If you want to stay, Steven, you can be a little more respectful in the comments about your boy trying to bring you live breaking news, Steven. So you decide, Steven, if you want to stay or you don't want to stay. It's really up to you. As I was saying before Steven was rude in the chat, the Buffalo Bills eyeballing a wide receiver, and there's a real strong chance, like the Kansas City Chiefs, they're 100% looking at a rookie here at 28 because, like I mentioned, Malachi Corley is potentially the next Deebo Samuel. And the fact that Leggett is maybe one of the bigger gems in this draft, the fact that Ladd McConkey could be the closest thing, not going to be Puka Nacua, but the closest thing to Puka Nacua to some people, as well as Ricky Parasol. I love Ricky Parasol. Ricky Parasol is an absolute gem in this draft. There's a lot of reason you would want to potentially at 28 sit here instead of moving up, take a Ricky Parasol, take another wide receiver later, and continue to take off your shoes before you enter, people, says Justin. He says, wipe your feet at the front door. Hit that thumb up button. How many thumbs up we got in here? How many thumbs up we got in here? 280 people in here and only 64 thumbs up. We got 129 from Twitter, 150 from YouTube. Appreciate you guys. Hit that thumb up button on the way in the door. There's a real shot the Bills, what I'm trying to say is sit at 28 and go, you know what, we're fine. We like these options. We love Malachi Corley. We love Ladd McConkey. Those would be great people to throw into this Buffalo Bill wide receiver room. You know, Ladd McConkey with Kincaid, this is pretty good. Like, it's underrated. It definitely doesn't have the pop that a Odunze would have or a Brian Thomas Jr., but it's certainly good. And I'm not disappointed. And it makes Kincaid go to the freaking moon. If Dalton Kincaid is really him, Ladd McConkey, or him and Parasol, or him and Leggett are the only players there, guess what? Kincaid goes to the moon. Not because Ladd's not good, not because Leggett's not good, but Kincaid's going to the moon. We got some super chats in here. I'm sorry, I told you guys I'd handle super chats immediately upon request. I'm gonna get to what I think the Buffalo Bills are gonna do here in 1 second. So hang tight. Let me get these super chats out of the way. Smitty the GOAT, thank you for all that you do. Kilpatrick, appreciate your super chat. Kilpatrick, you're still here, right? Donnie, are you still here? What do you think? What do you want Arizona to do with the 27 pick? It's a great question, bro. I honestly could go 100 different ways. I hope we don't go trading down the number 4 overall in Arizona and get rid of the opportunity of getting freaking Marvin Harrison Jr. and decide we're going to address the wide receiver position here, which Ladd McConkey would be. Like, I'm a big offensive guy, so you're going to hear me say things like, give me Ladd McConkey and Marvin Harrison Jr., but the Cardinals need wide receivers, so it makes a lot of sense to support Kyler. Honestly, if it was me, I would probably strongly look at potentially. I mean, offensive line and defense would be some sort of defensive presence that I think could make a splash, an anchor of sorts. But only if the right player was there. I would strongly consider Malachi Corley and Marvin Harrison Jr. combined, or Marvin Harrison Jr. and a Malachi Corley, or Ricky Parasol. I truly would, and it's not just because I'm offensive geared. Sauce Gardner was my top ranked player in the entirety of his rookie draft class, so I definitely am defensive oriented as well. But sometimes I will get heavy offense, and it's not because I'm biased. It's just the Cardinals need it. It's a good question, Donnie. Hopefully Donnie's still here and heard my answer. Donnie, you're the man, the myth, the legend. Appreciate you, my guy. Hopefully you're still here. We got Coble. Coble, am I getting that right, Coble? I think Coble's right? Coble says, was just about to jam out to some tunes.
Detected at the front door.
Ziggy, show me the front door. And Smitty goes live. Easy swap decision. Let's go. Coble, appreciate you dropping the $5 holler per usual. Coble, you're still in the building, right? And did I get your name correct finally? Appreciate you, my guy. As far as the Buffalo Bills, I have a couple different theories as to what could go down. I still think there's a really good chance that they like those rookie receivers, no doubt. But this is what I've kind of cooked up, and I believe this to be probably the most accurate at this moment in time. I think Josh Allen will have one of the following: Brandon Aiyuk, Rome Odunze, Brian Thomas Jr., or T. Higgins. Now, do I think this is the exact order? I don't necessarily feel like this is the exact order. The one that I want the most is Rome Odunze. The one that's most likely feels like Brian Thomas Jr. Odunze or Thomas Jr. would require a trade up. There's no way Thomas Jr. is falling to 28 overall. I know that. I'm not a moron. Odunze would require a massive trade up, but it would be 100% worth it. But I'm hearing, and I'm sure a lot of you are too, by a lot of sources, not one or two, that the Buffalo Bills are going to make an absolute monster splash at the wide receiver position. And they've basically given everybody the blueprint of it. They've basically telegraphed it from the top level down. The brass has come out and said, don't judge us in April for our roster, judge us in September. And what that might mean, if you're reading between the lines, is that Buffalo has the 28 overall pick. If they want to trade up and get Brian Thomas Jr., let's say, or a Dunze, they can't make this trade now. They're saying judge us in September. Don't judge us now. Don't judge us tomorrow. Don't judge us in a week, because we may not have a move done yet. Just because the Bills haven't traded up yet doesn't mean they're not trading up. They can't trade up if they don't know where to trade up to. They got to wait until on the clock Odunze falls to 11. Somehow, some way. They call it Minnesota. Minnesota says, no, we're going quarterback. They go, good. Okay, go. Draft your quarterback. Denver at 12. Denver, what do you want? We'll give you 28 in a future 2025 first rounder for this number 12. No, we're going Bo Nix right here. Oh, okay, go. Draft Nix. We'll call Las Vegas. Las Vegas, you going with O'Connell? Okay, good. Yeah, Nix just went, so there's no quarterbacks left. We'll give you 28. You guys can make your decision later. You don't know what to do? Take 28. We'll give you a 2025 first rounder for number 13 overall. Rome Odunze still there. Can you believe it? Yeah. Okay, well, execute that trade. Done. And the Buffalo Bills have traded for the number 13 overall pick, and they select Rome Odunze. Rome Odunze, now Josh Allen's number one wide receiver, and Rome Odunze becomes a top 5 wide receiver in the National Football League. That is when you judge them. They can't make the trade for Brian Thomas Jr. or Rome Odunze because they can't predict where they're going to go, so it would be reckless to position themselves now, give up draft capital, and then miss both wide receivers, and then say, damn, we missed Rome Odunze. He went way before 9, and then bro, you lose Brian Thomas Jr. at 12 to the Denver Broncos, and you got the 13 overall pick. Now what? You should have stayed at 28 and drafted Leggett, Malachi Corley, or Lad McConkey. So judge the Buffalo Bills once it's all said and done. T. Higgins, Brian Thomas Jr., Rome Odunze, Brandon Aiyuk, Josh Allen will very likely have one of these pieces. How easy is it to get Brandon Aiyuk? Not easy, but it isn't that difficult if the riff is big, if the gap in contract negotiation is massive. That's how it works. There's no other way to argue this. You can say whatever you want until you're blue in the face. Smitty, there's no way my Niners are going to make this trade. They love Brandon Aiyuk. I've got news for you, Billy boy. It doesn't matter what you think. You keep thinking whatever the hell you want. The Niners will do what's right if they can't get a deal done. The phone lines are open. Dial in to the Grindhouse phone lines. Go.
Call into the show. Call into the show.
Grindhouse phone lines are open. Dial in. Appreciate you all being here. Let's get phone number on screen. Put that bad boy right there. Anybody wants to discuss any of these topics, I'm here for you. Coble says, you got it, my man. All right, Coble, appreciate you. Coble, Jonathan, a.k.a. Bunchy Coble, in the building, becoming a staple in the Super Chat section of the show. Call your boy Loud in the building, $5 holler. We all know it's not going to happen, but for the Bears' number 1 pick, what type of realistic offer do you think could literally be too good for them to pass up? That's a great question. Call your boy Loud. I think probably at this point, you have it correct in saying that you don't think anything's going to happen. The reason being, bro, is the Bears would look like fools if they passed on Caleb after everything that's gone down. If the Bears traded down, and the only thing I could think of would be like 2 or 3 overall. That's it. You can't even trade to 4. You can't. You've got to, if like you say Drake May's our guy, and you know that if you trade down the Washington Commanders, let's say you traded down to 2. The Washington Commanders are taking Caleb, unfortunately, because well, not for sure, but probably. Kingsbury probably gets a say. But I think that I don't know if Adam Peters likes Caleb or not. I know Adam Peters probably loves JD5. And so if there was a trade down, it would require probably a future first rounder, bro. There's no way you just give a second round pick to move down from 1 to 2 when it's Caleb Williams and you believe in Caleb Williams, which the Chicago Bears do. I don't think there's a world where they trade down. There's just too much mockery that would head the Bears' way. They're pressured to go Caleb now, to get rid of Fields. You'd have the fans everywhere going, why don't we just keep Fields then if we're not sold on anybody? Like, we literally don't know who we're taking. We're just going to trade down to 2. So, future first rounder, even to go from 1 to 3. But I think it's highly unlikely, my guy. Highly unlikely. But a good question and fun to kick around. Dial in to the Grindhouse phone lines on screen. Appreciate you. Red flags are there, says John. They look like fools now if he's a bust. He's absolutely trending, in my opinion, toward being more likely a bust than a breakout. I'm not saying there's not a world where Caleb doesn't do what Fields did in Chicago and just kind of lingers and plays and he's not out of the league in a year, but he's not what you want him to be, therefore he's a bust. I think far too many people are taking my Caleb's going to bust and not be what people think he is as he's going to like go in and then like leave the game. Like he's going to check in and be so bad that they replace him by week 4. That's not what I'm saying. This is going to be a multiple year project. The question is, after 3 years, how's it looking? Is it looking like you got your money's worth? Is he looking like the player you thought he would be? Or are you treating him like Fields, blaming it on him and ready to send him in a trade somewhere and restart and draft another quarterback because your team's last place and you got this number 1 overall pick again? That's what we're talking about. That's what I believe Caleb will potentially be. It's not that he busts out of the league in 1 year or 2 years. He's certainly going to get Baker Mayfield type of leash. Baker's been in the league I think we said last night, Baker's going into his 6th year. He got a chance in his 5th year again. Like, Caleb will be in the league for 5-6 years minimum, trying to get a shot, even if he moved teams or something. So understand what I'm saying. That's not even the same. This conversation of him like busting is Thomas celebrating his 13 months, says any chance for Michael Wilson in Arizona? Yeah, to be a number 1 wide receiver for his team, no. To be a top 12, 15 wide receiver, no. To be a potential Jameson Williams for his team, yeah. To be a potential not even Jordan Addison level, but like, could he be maybe a Zay Jones for his team? Sure. I like Michael Wilson a lot. He's very, very good in Arizona. He's a very good receiver. And there was some thinking he could be the number 1. But once the Cardinals had a chance at Marvin Harrison Jr., once Rome Odunze and Neighbors started developing as everybody's favorite wide receiver class, like in the history of wide receiver classes, now you're looking at three options the Cardinals cannot pass over. Michael Wilson Jr. will be getting, I don't want to say coffee, but he'll be getting coffee for Marvin Harrison Jr., for Neighbors, or for Odunze. But if the Cardinals, let's say, pass on wide receiver, let's just put that out there, and they trade down massively, and then the Cardinals are taking, I don't know, let's say they take a offensive lineman or a defensive player somewhere in here, and they trade down, and then they're stabbing a wide receivers at 27, then I guess there's a shot that Wilson could become the number 1 in Arizona. But I do not want that to happen as an Arizona Cardinal fan myself. Yeah, I believe my 2 teams are the Bills and the Cardinals, and I hope that Rome Odunze's on Buffalo and Marvin Harrison Jr. is on the Cardinals. I'll be in heaven. That'll be music to my ears to have these 2 of these 3 wide receivers, especially my favorite 2, on the 2 teams I love the most. It will be unbelievable. It'd be glory. It'd be straight up glory to me. Coble, appreciate you dropping yet another one. Coble coming in strong. I run Dynasty teams with my bro, and we traded Rice and Pitts for A.J. Brown before the criminal activity. Huge win. Still have McBride, Kittle, Mayer at tight end. Nice job, bro. Total smash. Total Smitty approved.
You've just been Smitty approved.
Total Smitty approved. That's a fantastic trade. I can't see Caleb being a bad NFL QB after watching him in college. Weirdo, yes, but he's got talent. Yeah, no doubt about it. He's got an arm. He's got a cannon. There's a lot of talk about, what kind of defenses did he face? Yeah, he didn't have a lot of support, and he did a lot with a little, and he created so much. But there's a lot of thinking that he's got bad tendencies of scrambling and holding onto the ball too long. And you could say, well, give him weapons, and he won't. But I could also counter with give him Chicago, who won't develop him right and put him in the right system, call the right plays, and then he's scrambling and he's having to make those decisions in a big boy league where you can't scramble around, hold the ball for 18 seconds, and then throw a ball up in the air to be grabbed, that's floating for 7 seconds in the air. Like, there's a lot of, I think, reasons to think like, Ryan Leaf was going to be good. Josh Rosen was going to be good. Johnny Manziel was going to be good. Tim Tebow was going to be good. It doesn't matter how good you are at college ball. What matters is a lot of the intangibles and things that translate from time to time that you can kind of say are predictable. And Caleb has a lot of red flags. It doesn't mean he doesn't have an arm. It doesn't mean he doesn't have talent. It doesn't mean he's going to absolutely bust fully. He could be a top 15 quarterback, right around 15, 16, 18, and linger there and never leave the league and play for 8 to 10 years. But that won't be acceptable given he's the number 1 overall pick. That's where the bust factor comes in. He's got to be a top 5 quarterback in the NFL to be a success story. That's how touted he is. That's how highly ranked he is. So that's my feeling on there. It's not that Caleb can't be a starting quarterback in the National Football League for 5 years and fail, but kind of linger. Fields. Everybody hates Fields now, except for people on this channel, and not everybody on this channel loves him. I like Fields a lot. Fields was given the raw end of a deal that he's about to, I think, flip on its back and turn this thing completely upside down and show everybody how good he is and develop somewhere. He hasn't fully developed yet. It's kind of like judging. You tie a newborn puppy. You tie his hands behind his back. He's got just his legs, and he's just crawling around. And you're judging him for how he's maneuvering. And then you send him after 2, 3, 4 years to another location where they finally cut his paws free. And now this puppy gets to run around with all 4 legs. And you're judging him, saying he's not very good at walking. You can't. This puppy doesn't know what he's doing. He's never gonna. We get to finally see him be developed, and I think Mike Sullivan will probably develop him pretty well. I believe we saw what he did with Mason Rudolph, and some could say, that he's too broken, and I could understand that argument. But I'm telling you, I believe that Fields is going to flourish. And I believe Fields has got his back against the wall. He's got a chip on his shoulder like no other, and he's about to be handed a pretty damn good, well-rounded team. And the Chicago Bears didn't decide to build around the quarterback position until they got rid of Fields. What does that tell you? They never believed in him. They never tried to believe in him. Yeah, and like Blackbeard said, how many people showed up to Caleb's birthday party? Probably not that many, if any. Dial in.
Call into the show. Call into the show.
The Grindhouse phone lines are wide open. Funny that we don't get as many calls in the off season. During the in season, this thing is just, I can't even answer them. Like, it's ringing the whole show. It's like we got 7, 8. Sometimes I think we had like 18 people on the phone line at one point during the season. And then the off season, we definitely have 3 or 4 lingering throughout the show, on the phone line, or they call in, or we'll have a wave of them. But it's like wide open right now. If you've got a fantasy question, I've got a fantasy answer for you. Caleb or who, John? Lovey Smith says bare bones. What are we talking about there? He will be another Jay Cutler, says Rico. I think that's fair. Jay Cutler lingered for a while. Like that makes sense to me. That comparison makes sense. Fields will have a better wide receiver arsenal in Pittsburgh. Yeah, you could say DJ Moore was great for Fields, or you could say Fields made him great. I think George Pickens is 2 times the receiver of DJ Moore, and you can get mad at all you want. I don't care. That's my opinion. You have your opinion. I've got my show. This is why I'm here doing what I do. I don't need to concern myself if that sounds crazy to somebody. DJ Moore is a product of Fields. He was good in Carolina. He wasn't horrible. He was good. Everybody kind of liked him. I like him. DJ Moore's a good receiver. But Pickens is, I think, physically on a whole other level. Now, is he more of a head case and potential to fall apart? Maybe. Let's be honest, but Pickens is a freaking talent, like a phenom. Pickens is the discrepancy between Pickens's fantasy football value and his physical talent is like the reverse of what we see. You never really see a player. You usually see a player that is a top 5 or 10 talent, but they're not really a top 5 or 10 physical talent. They just are a fantasy top 5 to 10. You could say like Fields is an example of that for some people. Fields, so some people can produce top 5 to 10 quarterback numbers, but no one has him top 5 to 10 as an NFL quarterback yet. And not saying they will, but they could. Pickens is like the inverse of that. We've never seen that, where it's like he's not a top 10 wide receiver, but he's like a top 7 wide receiver talent-wise. And we'll see if it all comes to fruition. And Rob says who will have a better... Yeah. You're live, Young. What's going on, pal?
Hey, Smitty. Happy Saturday, buddy.
What's up, man?
So speaking of this Justin Fields, I remember last season, nobody was like bigger on Fields than you were, and we were all pretty hyped on the Bears. But what do you think it was, like, how we didn't see that coming? Kind of like the debacle of last season.
I guess I bought into the, and this is why I'm so against polls for the most part. I guess I bought into that, like the Bengals, everybody said it's never going to change. It's never going to change. It changes at some point, I've completely lost faith that they know what they're doing. And the fact that the play calling was as such, they didn't put Fields in a position to succeed. We saw Fields in week, I think 4 and 5. I always forget if it's week 3 and 4. I think it's week 4 and 5. Become a top 3 quarterback again. Fields scored so many fantasy points in weeks 4 and 5. I believe it was 4 and 5. Back to back. That he went from the bottom barrel of the league, like 30th place in fantasy football quarterback scoring roughly, to top 5. He was a top 5 fantasy quarterback after week 5, when he was absolute garbage in week 1, garbage in week 2, garbage in week 3. He had 2 weeks to catch up, and he caught up to everybody. So I don't even feel like all that defeated by my Fields prediction last year. And this is not a double down by any means. Why? Number one, Fields is free. Like, if I miss on Fields this year, I could care less. I'm not embarrassed. Do I look embarrassed? I'm not embarrassed at all. This is a quarterback that's dirt cheap. He's absolutely free. It's a sleeper move. And he's a backup right now. You can get him for pennies on the dollar. In Dynasty, people will give him away. And he could potentially be an absolute top 7 fantasy football quarterback, scoring quarterback. It's not a lock. I've made it abundantly clear that Fields might be broken beyond repair. I don't know the answer to that. I'm being completely honest and transparent. He's broken. I've admitted this 100 times in a row. Ziggy, show me the front door. I've shown this. I've said this 100 times before. Fields may or may not be fixable. I don't know the answer. I'm only speculating that he will be fixable. I'm speculating that he has got a chip on his shoulder like no other. I'm speculating that his situation is 10 times better than it was. I'm also predicting that it's actually better than Chicago. Ziggy, off. I'm actually predicting that Fields has a better situation in Pittsburgh than he does in Chicago, if he was still there. Everybody acting like the Chicago Bears are the best setup ever now. How can Caleb fail? Number one, Swift is no guarantee to stay healthy after a brutal between-the-tackle workload, which he wasn't really equipped for. He succeeded. We predicted he would. We didn't even imagine he'd be overfed between the tackles like he was. He's an injury-prone running back, which we acknowledged all offseason despite liking his risky, high-upside, high-reward value, and he delivered. He absolutely delivered. But to bank on Swift coming off of the high mileage 2023 season between the tackles, staying healthy in Chicago, this might be a non-factor by mid-season. And therefore, you don't have the running back support you thought you did. Keenan Allen's 87 years old. And to think he's going to just be a marvel changing teams, wide receivers changing teams is not an easy task whatsoever. It sometimes takes about a year and a half for a wide receiver to fully adjust to changing teams, changing schemes, changing everything. It's not a smooth transition. 50% of the time, it's not a smooth transition. He doesn't have the kind of time to weather through that. He's got this 1 year left if he's lucky. Ziggy, how old is Keenan Allen? I think he's 87.
Keenan Allen is 31 years old and was born on April
30th. Ziggy off. He turns 32 this month. Keenan Allen turns 32 at the end of April. And you saw Cooper Kupp drop off. Couldn't stay healthy at 30. So Keenan Allen might be a non-factor. Okay? Swift might be a non-factor. DJ Moore, what is he without Fields? We don't know. Here also, we got this team that everybody thinks is glorious. It might not be even anywhere near what we think. Give me George Pickens, Najee Harris, Jaylen Warren. But even Pat Freiermuth is more solid than he's been playing. Mike Tomlin's mentality. Mike Sullivan. I know Arthur Smith's a problem, but in my mind, with the research we've done as of late, I'm less concerned about Arthur Smith having even a hand in the passing game than I originally thought, because Mike Sullivan's role is reportedly and looking to be the main driving force behind the passing attack, and was last year, and he got a promotion this year. I highly doubt they strip away his duties. I think Mike Sullivan's in control of the passing attack. I think this is a Zach Robinson, like the Rams situation last year. Zach Robinson was the quarterback mind and architect. So to answer your question, very long-winded answer, I know. I don't know why I believed in Chicago turning things around. I think it was more so I didn't know what to expect with Chicago, and I was banking on Fields overpowering any adversity he encountered. And I was wrong. I was wrong in assuming that Fields could overcome Chicago and their inability to develop a quarterback. And when you think back historically, and I can give you the answer, it's a hypothetical question. It's just rhetorical, actually. What quarterback has the Bears ever developed? Like, name one. Name one in any sort of recent time that the Bears have developed. The answer is there is none. So, you know, and then my ultimate rebuttal to anybody that says, like, oh, this is different, is Shane Waldron is your wizard. I always say Shane Waldron is like a math teacher. Like, he might be the best high school math teacher on planet Earth. Okay? But you can't bring in Shane Waldron, an amazing, top of his class math teacher in high school, to come teach trigonometry in Harvard. Like, it's not the answer to the Chicago Bears situation. He's not the guy. He's not the wizard that's going to be able to help sculpt and mold Caleb Williams. Hold on one second, Young. 540 caller. What is your name and where are you calling from?
What's going on, Smitty? It's Call Your Boy Loud.
Call Your Boy Loud. Where are you calling from?
Virginia.
Okay. Call Your Boy Loud, Virginia. What's up, my guy?
What's going on? Actually, I called with a different question, but when you were talking about Keenan Allen and how you were saying transitioning to a new team is somewhat of a, takes a year and a half, do you put that same kind of like cap on like rookie receivers going, because it's technically going to a new team? Like, I know, like you say, Doomsday is going to be, great. But like, as far as the first year goes, do you put any kind of a cap because of that, or?
It's a great question. No one's ever posed that question to me, and to be honest with you, I haven't really thought of it from that angle ever. It does make you wonder, like, how do rookies do it and translate immediately? But that probably would be that, okay, A, They're learning everything from the ground up with that team. They're not bringing over tendencies. They're not used to a certain offense, used to a certain way. There's just something about a receiver transitioning to a different team, especially a veteran, that struggles more times than not, or at least 50% of the time the receiver has some sort of, down tick or some sort of struggle. It's a great question. I can only attribute it to that they have certain things they're used to and they get cemented in. It might be why coaches a lot of the time, especially the Niners, they do this. They like to build players from the ground up. They'll have a lot of no-name offensive linemen and cornerbacks. The Niners do this with corner and offensive line. Shanahan likes to have a clean slate so we can not have anybody bring in bad tendencies, and he likes to train them exactly how he wants them to block and be an offensive lineman and pull. And the scheme's so unique in San Francisco. Having somebody that's trained to do something this way might even be a problem. So I don't know. That's the only thing I can come up with off the top of my head. I think it probably is pretty accurate, but it's a great observation and good question. Why can a Rome Odunze step in? And I will say though that rookies come with that rookie wall though, so there's downsides to rookie wide receivers as well. There will certainly be a rookie wall for almost nearly every single player that starts the season from week 1 out of the gate, hot, getting all the production. Because they're used to a shorter college season and they get worn down. Sometimes it's just mentally. But if a player gets kind of unleashed around week 5, week 4, they can there might be a little blip, but they can pretty much go all the way. But rookies do hit rookie walls. So there's pros and cons to rookies. But it's a great question. It's a great question. Call your boy loud. All right, hang tight real quick. I'll circle back to you. Let me go over to Travis. Travis, you're live. What's up, Mars man? Travis?
Hey, Smitty.
Yo.
I think, just real quick, I am starting to think the Steelers might be able to neutralize Arthur Smith a little bit because of that passing attack and what they're going to do. But
definitely.
The reason why I called was I actually do kind of feel that one of the two teams, the Steelers or the Bills, will end up with one of Aiyuk or Higgins. Mm-hmm. I don't think both go to each team or anything like that, but and I'm starting to think we will, something's going to happen with Higgins because it's almost like we've heard almost nothing, which is strange.
Yeah.
There was a little bit yesterday about the Steelers talking internally about bringing in Higgins too and stuff like that, but no real smoke out there about him, which makes me think that the Bengals maybe know what they're doing already. Have made up their mind almost.
Yeah, we talked about this last night. I'm sure. I don't think were you there last night? That Higgins.
I missed a little bit of it. So
yeah. So
Higgins part.
Exactly what you just said. Last night I said Higgins. I think we're going to hear a bunch of news this week about Higgins. I think Higgins crops back up in the news, and exactly what you just said. The fact that he's more isolated and cut off than Aiyuk. The Niners want Aiyuk back. There's no doubt about it in my mind. They 100% want Aiyuk back. It's just a matter of will that gap in contract negotiation be so divided that Aiyuk's not coming close to them and they're not coming close to Aiyuk. And so at that point, then you look around for the offers and you just say, can anybody save us from having to have this standoff end ugly and Aiyuk play on a contract year and bank on himself, which everybody could say he's not going to do that. He doesn't want to get hurt. But if somebody says, hey, I'll pay you, $30 an hour and you feel like you're worth, or let's see, what's minimum wage now? Minimum wage is crazy high. It's like $5,000 an hour now. What is it? It's I don't know what it is.
Only in California.
Okay, let's just say let's say you think you're worth $30 an hour, which is like $60,000 a year, roughly. If anybody doesn't know, you just take the 30, multiply it by 2, and then add the zeros. That's kind of how you figure out what an hourly wage is salary wise. So $30 an hour would be $60,000 a year. So let's say you think you were worth $30 an hour, and the job you're applying for says we'll give you 20, and you're like, no. I'm worth 30. Like crap, it's a bad economy or whatever. Maybe I'll take less, but and they say, okay, most will go as 21. Like, you're not just going to accept, like, especially if there's other potential avenues, accept 21 because it's their final offer. If they come to like 27 and you're like, I'm worth 30, but damn, I need to do this, I'll go ahead and take 27. That's what they're negotiating. Like, to me, 22, 23 feels like that $22 amount to Aiyuk when he believes he's worth 30. And even if we put it into those actual numbers, I think Aiyuk feels like he's worth $27 million a year. And I believe the Niners believe he's worth $22 to $24 million a year. And Aiyuk at some point won't accept the low ball number, and it will be more advantageous for him to play out, bank on himself, right? Because if he thinks he's a top 5 wide receiver and he goes out and explodes, he's going to get the world next offseason. And he's also potentially going to be able to get more because the salary cap goes up, about 20% every 2 years, relatively speaking. So, like, everything goes up. The only question is, does he get franchise tagged? Does he get franchise tagged, which is an awful situation for him. But I think he would then hold out again and create some kind of craziness. But he doesn't have much leverage. Like, T. Higgins has very little leverage right now. Aiyuk doesn't have much leverage either, but the leverage is creating chaos. The leverage is creating social media, unrest. The leverage is trying to get another team to swoop in and say, hey, we'll pay you $27 million. And that leverage creates a conversation. And then the Niners, like I said, are going to be forced to go like this. All right, hold on 1 second. Guys, they're going to pay $27 million. We're not. Aiyuk's going to hear this, and then Aiyuk is going to then absolutely not take 23.5 because he thinks he's the world now. Let's just, rather than go into the next year not having locked up, let's just go ahead and take the 28 overall pick because we could get a rookie. That's how the conversation happens. So T. Higgins, circling back to what you were saying and what we said last night, is that T. Higgins is very much cut off and pushed out the door more than Aiyuk because Aiyuk is under contract. He can be franchise tagged. He's able to be kept by the Niners in a worst case scenario for Aiyuk, and not a great scenario for the Niners, but a good 2-year situation for him. Aiyuk can be there this year and franchise tag next year. They don't necessarily need to get rid of him at all. They could push their luck on this thing and say, we'll piss him off next year and franchise tag him, or try and give him a deal next year if he's reasonable. Whereas Higgins is gone. Like, he's franchise tagged, and the cost of franchise tagging a player a second year in a row goes up by, I want to say it's like 20% more than the franchise tag amount, because you're doing it 2 years in a row. So franchise tagging T. Higgins 2 years in a row is almost 0% going to happen. So T. Higgins is franchise tagged on the way out the door, very expendable to the Bengals. If they don't want to give him a contract, and word is they haven't negotiated since 2023 because Higgins believes he's a top 5 wide receiver value-wise, the Bengals are like, put him in a box, franchise tag him, shove him out onto the plank right now. He'll play on the plank, but he's probably walking off it. They're very susceptible to trading him. So, yeah, I agree with you. And again, we said last night that I think Higgins' conversation gets kicked up like crazy this coming week, maybe Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We'll see. If it doesn't mean that it won't come up later. And on draft day, both guys will be in some sort of trade rumor, or at least maybe we don't hear about it, but behind closed doors, conversations will be had. So we'll see.
I actually think, thinking about it, I actually think Higgins is a better fit than Aiyuk in Buffalo. Like, looking at what they have, and I know I'm weary at times about Higgins, but I don't. People probably call me crazy, but I think him and Aiyuk are pretty close when it comes to ranking them in terms of where they stand amongst other wide receivers, and I think Higgins' size could play really nice in Buffalo.
Yeah, I'm not a huge Higgins guy. I agree he could be.
I'm weary about him. So.
Yeah, I think Aiyuk is very capable of being one of the league's lowest, or fantasy football's lowest end wide receiver ones. So like 12, 13, 14.
Right.
I do not think Aiyuk is a top 10 fantasy wide receiver. There's just two. And if anybody has a problem with that, understand where I'm coming from at least. You don't have to agree. But Odunze, Marvin Harrison Jr., and Neighbors are all top 10, 12 wide receivers. So you just took 3 people out of the current top 10 and shoved in 3 rookies. So it's hard to fit in an Aiyuk. But he's borderline. He's like if you were to wait on drafting wide receiver, and let's say you go in a Dynasty startup, you go Kyron and Gibbs, or Gibbs and Kyron, and then you get Devontae Smith and Aiyuk, or Aiyuk and Devontae Smith. That's a great way to get your wide receiver 1, low cost wide receiver 1. You're kind of almost getting 2 super high end wide receiver 2s to account for you going running back. But I think Aiyuk is probably a tier above Higgins. Higgins in Cincinnati with an injured Jamar Chase could produce exactly like Aiyuk. So it's situation based for Higgins for me. But if you take Higgins out of Cincy and put him somewhere, and you take Aiyuk out and put him in the same place, Aiyuk outscores Higgins and outperforms Higgins and outplays Higgins and is better than Higgins. But let's say Higgins in, I'm sorry, Wednesday call back in, I'll get you right on. Wednesday just hung up because he's been on hold forever. Wednesday call back, I'll put you right on. I think all things are equal. Aiyuk's miles above, but Higgins in Buffalo without Jamar Chase could outscore Aiyuk even in San Francisco, or it's possible.
Ron gave you a 50.
Oh, Ron Navy, $50. He's also on the line right now. Aiyuk will end up on the Steelers. $50 hauler prediction from Ron. He is excellent wide receiver blocker like Hines Ward, Hines Ward, by the way, I believe there was news today, just became the Arizona State wide receiver coach, ironically, Ron. So Hines Ward, there you go. Didn't he? Wasn't that Hines Ward?
Yes, he did.
Yeah, Hines Ward.
Yep, it was Hines Ward.
Yeah, like ASU, baby. ASU to the moon. Hines Ward, baby. So Ron Navy, $50 hauler. Aiyuk will be a Steeler. This is a pretty big, bold prediction. Ron, let me put it on the board.
Alert. Super chat alert.
Ron, what are you giving up for him?
Hold on one second.
What do you think? Yeah.
Hold on one second, guys.
Alert. Super chat alert.
Ron Navy, hold on one second, guys. Ron Navy on the board here. 413. Ron Navy, Aiyuk to Pittsburgh. There you go. You want me to write he's going to be an excellent blocker, Ron, or are we good? We good with that?
No, you don't need that.
He'll have excellent blocking accolades in 2024. That'd be amazing. That'd be amazing if like for some reason his blocking got highlighted in like the craziest way this season, and Ron's like, "Go back and watch the film. Include the blocking comment." Like Ron barely misses winning the vote, and he's like, "Go back and watch the replay. I said he'd be an excellent blocker." He's gonna have like the block that gets him, like the block that gets the Steelers into the playoffs or something.
Yeah.
Good prediction, Ron.
If they pull that off, I'll be jealous, because then they'll have done exactly what I wanted the Patriots to do, which was get Justin Fields and get a wide receiver.
Yeah. Wednesday call back in. I'm sorry I made you wait. Ron, hold on. Let me just go straight over to Ryan Kilpatrick, who's on the phone. So he doesn't, he's been there for a while. Ryan, what's up, my guy?
Yo, what's up, Smitty? Yeah, I just had a quick question in Dynasty. This is my second year doing it. Looking for some trade compensation for Breece Hall. Let me see here. Yeah, so he was inquiring about Kenneth Walker and Neighbors and a pick for Breece Hall. Do you think that's a little too pricey for Breece Hall in one QB Dynasty?
Neighbors and Walker?
Yeah.
God, Walker's so tough because, I really believe Kenneth Walker is still, on the level of Breece Hall in a way, like a step below, but the problem is I don't know, and it's a new situation, but I don't know if they view him as, like, is he going to get, if he gets the volume, he 100% could be a top 5 to 10 running back. And I think Walker, it's easy to be like, oh, he's not the pass catching back that he, you know, that maybe he could have been. He still could be. It's just we don't know how Ryan Grubb and this offense is going to be run. And if it's like, if we get one comment, remember my example I keep using was the Godwin example. He's a 6-7 round pick, and then the offensive coordinator goes, Godwin's catching 100 balls this year, and Godwin went to 3rd round value, and he crushed 3rd round value. One simple convo or public statement of like Walker's going to lead the league in rushing or something like that. We don't know that that'll happen, by the way. They may not say crap about that. They might even say the reverse. Like, we're going to have a running back by committee, whatever. Charbonnet's the best backup in the league and he's going to get work. Like, that could happen. And as of right now, I would say this is a good, it's a good trade. Like, you could argue both sides, but give me Breece Hall. Mainly because I feel like the wide receiver that you're starting with Breece Hall, the combined of those two is better than the Walker Neighbors. However, if this was Marvin Harrison Jr., I'd say smash it. If it was Adunze's in Buffalo, I'd say smash it. But my fear is Neighbors will be in New York with the Giants, and you're going to get Walker and not sure what you're going to get, and Hall's going to be a top 5 running back. So I'm going to say no. But it doesn't mean that it couldn't be something we revisit if like a big comment comes out, or Neighbors goes to the Cardinals and some sort of trade down and the Cardinals grab Neighbors, and then all of a sudden Walker is talked about as being he's going to lead the league in rushing and they're so behind this guy. Then all of a sudden this becomes a different offer. So that's my answer for right now.
Okay, I appreciate you saying. Thanks.
Yeah, hang tight right there. You can ask another question in a second. Ron Navy, do you have anything else you wanted to add? I'm not leaving yet. I just want to swing back to Ron.
No, I think I'm okay.
Any further commentary regarding your Aiyuk? That the con man is going to get this done. What's the trade going to look? What's the trade going to look like? 20 over. You said no 20 overall. You think it's just going to be 2nd round picks? I just don't know if the Niners are going to do that.
It'll be maybe a second and Con. He just pulls rabbits out of his hat. So I don't know. I mean, it could be a 2nd and a 3rd, but I mean, I don't know if that's don't
you think they get a better offer though?
20 was too much to pay for.
Well,
even 17.
Yeah, but Ron, you had a good idea last night. What if the Niners swapped the 20 and the 31 and then an additional later pick? Then all of a sudden the Niners are moving up to get Brian Thomas Jr. if he was to fall, or they're getting Keon Coleman, or they're getting like the 5th or 6th wide receiver potentially at 20. So that makes more sense. I don't think I think the Niners would rather bank and call Aiyuk's bluff that he doesn't just after the draft sign a deal, whatever the highest deal is that they offer him. I think they'd call his bluff before doing 2nd round picks. I think the Niners will not trade Aiyuk for a 2nd round pick. But if they could do that trade down, that's not a bad idea. Or trade up.
They got big decision to make because they're already paying Deebo big money. They're already paying Deebo. They got a lot of people to pay, and not enough money to go around per se. And I think they're not going to get rid of Deebo. They've already got him under wraps. So I really think Aiyuk's going to be on this. They're going to cut ties with Aiyuk. He's the expendable piece because they still got to sign. Whatever you think of Purdy, he's doing a good job for them. Shanahan likes him. Shanahan, can cultivate him however he wants, and I think they'll extend. They'll give Purdy a bag. He won't be like a top-paid quarterback, of course, but still be a decent amount of money. And they got to get some offensive help. They got to pay their guys that are top-end guys. I mean, they're paying a lot of guys that are top-end pay-wise. They're bringing in the bag. So I really think that they're going to cut ties.
It'll be.
Con will figure out.
It'll be really interesting what happens. It is also very interesting that the Steelers are one of Aiyuk's desired landing spots, and people can say that's not accurate. We don't really know for sure because it's not like Aiyuk's come out and go, I'd like to play for the Steelers, but he tweeted Mike Tomlin, creating controversy. Why would he do that if he didn't have desire? What is the desire coming from? Is it just because he a lot of people are saying, so the tweet, if anybody remembers, he said, people are saying we look alike. What do you think? And then everybody was like, oh my God, this might be his father. Because they do very much they do look alike. It's funny. So Aiyuk put that out there. Aiyuk's like, people are saying we look alike. What do you think? And he tweeted Mike Tomlin. So what do you think? Basically, are we, do we look alike? Are we related? And so that caused a bunch of controversy. But he's the one that initiated that. And I don't think you do that if you don't have some desire to play there, because you're opening a door of conversation there. You don't know what it could lead to. And I don't think you would do that to a situation you didn't want to play. Like, let's say it was the Giants. You got no quarterback, and somebody made a joke about, something similar or whatever. You're not going to be like, hey, what do you think, Giants? You don't want to go there. You don't want to even have that conversation. You don't want even people even insinuating that you should go to the Giants if you don't want to go to the Giants. So he definitely has an intrigue of playing in Pittsburgh, but the question is, does Pittsburgh have the intrigue in bringing him in and paying him? That's the only thing that I don't know, is if Pittsburgh wants to pay this man $26 million a year. Because the acquiring team always overpays more than the team that's holding the player, because they have to. Otherwise, the player shows no interest in signing the deal. And if they lowball Aiyuk, let's say Pittsburgh, and if a trade happens, the contract's already worked out behind the scenes. That is the nature of a trade like this, on a contract year or a franchise tag. So if the Pittsburgh Steelers say, Aiyuk, we're only going to give you $23.5 million, he's going to say, I won't sign it, and the trade won't happen. So in order for Aiyuk to go to Pittsburgh, they've got to overpay, and they will overpay. Guaranteed they'll pay more than the Niners, or the trade won't happen. So are the Pittsburgh Steelers willing to pay $25 to $26 million a year with probably $60 million guaranteed, $62 million guaranteed? That's my question to you, Ron. Are the Steelers capable of that?
I think Khan is. Now, if Khan wasn't the GM, I think, and Rooney's also come out and say, hey, we need to make a big run this year. Rooney said that a lot, so they got to really go through it. And remember, last year, Aiyuk went off on the Steelers in the very first game. He had like over 32 fantasy points. How do you know Tomlin and him didn't have a little conversation after the game? And he's like, hey, man. And if you remember last year, the Steelers, right? They weren't happy with Stonehands because he wasn't blocking. They weren't happy with Higgins because he wasn't blocking. And Aiyuk is a great blocker. That's why I brought that up. Aiyuk is a great blocking wide receiver, and that's what they're looking for their wide receivers to do, is also be able to block. That's huge for them.
Yeah.
He's a good fit. That's great fit.
Yeah, he'd be a great fit. Like I said, he'd be like a Hines Ward. We haven't really seen any receivers like Hines Ward. Hines Ward just loved contact. I mean, he could get nailed. He didn't care. He'd jump up with a smile on his face.
Hey, Young. What? You're a Niner fan. You're a diehard.
Yes.
You're a diehard Niner fan, right? Or just a casual, or what? Like, is it born and bred? Like,
oh, I'm born and bred.
Okay,
homegrown.
so the goggles are thick on this one. The goggles, okay. We've
had conversations before that.
Okay.
And you've said before that I don't have the.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
That's
right. I'm sorry, Young. Sometimes I forget. I got so many people I talk to. All right, Young. What is acceptable to you as a Niner fan? Let's say you were to get your hands on a Keon Coleman or a Leggett or a McConkey. Are all those wide receivers, knowing you got to overpay for Brock Purdy next offseason, which I do not advise, but it's your money. Given you got to pay him QB, resetting the market value next offseason, and knowing that you can't really chew off all this. What wide receiver, if any, would you be okay with replacing Brandon Aiyuk as a Niner fan?
So yeah, I mean, I'm glad you asked. I think that, you know, I mean, I obviously love Aiyuk, but you know, this year in particular, I know someone had said that too before. He's like the guy that, just like Ron Navy just said, you know, there's so many irons in the fire right now with the Niners. Like, they got to make some type of move, and it's all just kind of pointing. It's all kind of leaning towards Aiyuk getting traded. And this is the year that he could probably be the most replaced, you know. I think like a first round, the 20 picks, you know, like pick 20 and on, somewhere in there would be fair. And
so what?
I mean, yeah.
Rank the wide receivers in order that you would accept. You would gladly, not gladly, but if you had to make this move, you would accept for Brandon Aiyuk. List the 3 or 4 wide receivers in order that you want.
I like Leggett. I like Leggett a lot. I think he would be probably. I mean, Aiyuk is like a route running technician, but I think Leggett would be probably his best replacement.
I think Malachi Corley is the best fit for you guys.
Out of those guys,
you'd have two.
Well, yeah, but then you have 2 Deebo Samuel.
Yeah, but
then you have 2 guys. You need that kind of guy that can, you know.
Yeah, but I think Malachi Corley can be a route running technician too. I think people are, just because he gets a Deebo comp doesn't mean he's like replacing or he's replicating Deebo's. Deebo's such a big dude. He's a big body, and Malachi's a much more compact. The best comp I have for Malachi Corley would be like, God, I don't even. He plays a lot like Neighbors does to me, and I think people don't understand how good he's going to be if he's in the right spot. But also, I wanted
that was even better.
I wanted to also.
Tank Dell in him.
Who? What? Travis?
I'm just saying, got a little bit of Tank Dell in him.
Yeah, aside from the size, yeah. Here's another thing that I want to make clear is that Deebo Samuel's still potentially movable. And in some ways, I think the team might be interested in moving him. I don't know that it's smart, because I think him and McCaffrey are the glue of this team. You lose Deebo or you lose McCaffrey, especially if you lose both, you have 0 shot at winning a Super Bowl. If McCaffrey goes down or falls off, the Niners are at best a top 15 team. They're not even a top 10 team. Young, you might disagree with that, but whenever McCaffrey's been hampered or out of the game, the team completely falls apart. Here's the details on Deebo Samuel. If Deebo Samuel is moved with a post-June 1st cut, the Niners would take on nearly $11.4 million in dead cap hit in 2024 and $15.1 dead cap hit in 2025. But then here's this part. If Samuel is moved via a post-June 1st trade, the Niners would take on a $6.6 million dead cap hit in 2024 and a $15.1 million dead cap hit in 2025. I know that the dead cap seems like it makes Deebo Samuel not movable, but there are so many different ways to look at contracts and say to yourself, like, you are paying $11.4 million in dead cap. However, how much is Deebo's salary in 2024? How much is Deebo's salary in 2025 compared to the rookie contract? So it's hard to, it's not apples to apples. You really are having to look at this from like different accounting perspectives. And if you were to trade Deebo Samuel, who as a Niner, exec or decision maker, you might be saying, we put some mileage on this guy, and I don't know if he's going to hold up for another 4 or 5 years at this level. He might hold up for 1 to 2 years. He might be broken every single year going forward. And I'm not saying he will or won't, but he's a big dude carrying a lot of weight. And I don't want to say this isn't a callous statement, but he seems like he has a little bit of trouble keeping the weight off. He seems like he'll be one of those players, like when he quits football, he'll put on some weight or whatever. He's just a thick body. and it helps him be as good as he is because he's impossible to bring down. Like, you show me a Deebo Samuel game, and I'll show you a player that either gets ushered out of bounds or ends up in the end zone. That's why he's probably the league's most dangerous yak yardage monster, and that's why I think he's an amazing acquisition for the Buffalo Bills. So in a way, I almost, for Buffalo, would rather have Deebo Samuel get traded to the Buffalo Bills and surrender this like 28 overall for Deebo, even though there's some financial hardship from that. I'd rather, if you're valuing Aiyuk long-term more than Deebo for Brock Purdy's development, then it makes sense to have this conversation. And if you're the Buffalo Bills, you get such a dynamic playmaker that can not only help you in the passing game, help you with yak yards, but this is a team that doesn't have a run game. This is a team that their run is short passes. Their run is Josh Allen and short yardage passes. Deebo Samuel fits the bill to a T, that this team runs the ball through a short pass to Deebo Samuel. Deebo Samuel would make this team a Super Bowl contender immediately. I think if Deebo was on the Buffalo Bills, they would win a Super Bowl within 2 or 3 years. One Super Bowl at least in 2 or 3 years with Deebo Samuel. So I just wanted to throw that out there and discuss that part of this equation, and that it's not out of the realm of possibility that Deebo is brought up soon as well. Like we talked about Higgins next week being tossed around in trade negotiation buzz and smoke. We might hear a little bit of Deebo chatter, and it makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough, It's tough with both of them because, Aiyuk, Deebo, they're both, superstar players. But, the injury-prone risks, with Deebo, yeah, it's a little bit. And like you said, with, you take Deebo, you take McCaffrey out. I agree with that because I witnessed it. I witnessed it, what was it? Not this season, but last season.
And Trent Williams.
Or maybe this when Deebo and Trent were out.
I've never seen a team be so reliant on an offensive lineman too, like Trent. When Trent Williams was out, it looked like Brock Purdy had one leg. Like it was really, really evident. I have a little bit of concern for you, Young. Injuries are definitely a Niner problem in-house for the Niners. I even had this conversation with Raj one time, and I'm like, why are the Niners always injured? And he's like, I don't know. The one thing he did say he wondered about is because he's been to a lot of practices. He's like, this team barely stretches. And that sounds really stupid and small. And easy to identify, like if you were auditing this team from an injury perspective, which I think they should do, if there's even such a thing. Why are they always injured? Yeah, Raj said that he's like, they barely stretch. They may stretch where he doesn't see, but he's like, time and time again, he's like, they don't really stretch as much as you would think, or as much as they probably should. Who does stretch on their own? McCaffrey. If you see McCaffrey, he's by himself doing his own routine, and he's stretching more than anybody. He doesn't do what the Niners do as a whole. He does his own little routine. McCaffrey's his own person. He's got his own structure. And McCaffrey's been staying healthy relatively for multiple years now. So he's clearly got the right recipe and all the at-home treatments and things that he has and the tank that he goes in or whatever. But yeah, I've heard that before multiple times from Raj and from other people that maybe they don't. Like, what is it about the Niners that they're always getting injured? And the fact that no one looks into it, it's football. Like, that's what somebody, like, Deebo did it. And that's what you hear too. It's football, Smitty. People get hurt. Like, no shit. But this is, like, different than that. How many running backs did the Niners injure when they came into the year? I think you guys had 6 or 7 running backs on the roster. You had 0 of them left. You had Deebo Samuel, your wide receiver, as your starting running back that season when Shanahan injured 6 running backs.
Yeah, and that's what sucks the most. That's what's really hard about last season too, was everybody stayed healthy, man. Pretty much like almost the whole roster for the first time actually could stay on the field all year. So it's like with the Niners, that just doesn't happen all the time, So it felt like, man, last season was probably the best opportunity
Yep.
I've ever seen them.
Your window, or you could say like thread of a needle, even better example, was like the size of a door, and the thread was the size of this remote, and that was your opportunity for a Super Bowl. And I'm not saying that like you didn't have certain things that potentially, you couldn't prevent or whatever, but like you had a healthy team pretty much all year, especially in the playoffs. Christian McCaffrey got banged up in week 17. We all got screwed from that. But you had literally a door size thread of a needle hole, and the thread you could throw through and not even touch any part of I believe that the ratio of that is more to the tune of a small window now. And the reason I think that isn't because of, you aren't bringing back, X number of players. It's because I think that you have a lot of variables in a very off-injured team that now I think are going to be a concern for me. Kittle staying healthy seems like a tall order. Trent Williams, we'll see what happens with him, but there was concerns, last year with that. But like, let's just assume he's
36.
Yeah, let's just assume Trent stays healthy. Let's assume Trent stays healthy. Let's assume Kittle stays healthy. Deebo and Christian McCaffrey, that seems like a concern, especially with how aggressive. And you might ask, okay, aside from stretching or something crazy that we can't pinpoint, why are the Niners running backs always hurt? Because it's an aggressive scheme. There's a lot of pulling, and a lot of times you'll pull and you create mismatches, sometimes at a disadvantage to the player, and you'll have a running back blocking a linebacker. You'll have a tight end blocking a line. You'll have a lot of different things going on in this offense that you don't in another, and that adds up over time. So there are actual rhyme and reason to why the Niners running backs get hurt, why the Niners players get hurt more than the average player because of the scheme. But you also have Christian McCaffrey at 28 years old and mileage on him that is ungodly. Like, he's had so much mileage and been a high percentage of his offense more than any player in the NFL. There's no player in the NFL that has been more a percentage of his offense than Christian McCaffrey. And he had an injury problem for 2 straight years that he shook off, and hats off to that. He did an amazing job. Proved a lot of people wrong, and even I was a little skeptical last year that he could stay healthy all year. And again, he did screw everybody in week 17, including myself in a couple leagues, but he did end up getting healthy, finished out the playoffs healthy. But how does Christian McCaffrey at 28 with that mileage have another elite 17-game season or into the playoffs? I don't know, bro. I think that injury is going to be the biggest concern for you guys all year. It's going to be tough.
Well, we'll see.
All right, Young, appreciate it. I'm going to cycle you guys off the phone line. I'm going to get out of here in a second. We got, how many people we got in here? We got I got a lot of people in here. We got 308 people in here. Later, Young, appreciate you. 200 from Twitter, 117, 120 from YouTube. Hit that thumb up button. We only have we have 99 thumbs up. I shouldn't say only 99, but hit that thumb up button. Let me go to Call Your Boy Loud. Any final thoughts? Call Your Boy Loud. Appreciate you calling in, bro.
Yeah, I just have one question regarding draft trades. As far as like let's say Washington wanted to trade back one to get, because if they knew that the Patriots wanted May and they wanted Daniels, so it would work out if they both wanted each. But if they were to do that, do they put in the trade? Is there a contractual thing where where the Patriots can't do that and then sneak take Daniels? Can they put in the trade? Excuse me. Sorry. That if they, so that way they can't dupe them and be yeah, we want May, we'll take them at 2, and then you can get Daniels at 3, and then they go and take Daniels.
Nope.
Is that?
No, you can't. Yeah, you can do whatever you want.
Why would the Patriots do that?
I
think I misunderstood.
Yeah, and if you telegraph,
for example,
if you telegraph something like that too, it takes away some, it's some disadvantage. But No, there's no, you can't say, hey, you know, we're going to write into this trade that you can't draft this player. No, there's no way to do that. But, you know, a team wouldn't do it anyway, you know, because you don't know what injuries could happen but I mean, it's a good question, I guess, but no, there'd be nothing like that you could do. No Quincy's, no double stamping and triple stamp. It'd be fun.
Oh yeah, one other thing I wanted to say regarding your comment section. It's actually pretty funny that during the off season, any like stream or video that you do that like involves any like, you know, speculation, man, people be coming out. It's a whole like, it's crazy. It's like 80% of the time that I look, it's just a bunch of people that are just like trying to dismiss everything you're saying. Like it can't even be a possibility at all.
I don't know if I agree with that. I mean, I read our chat pretty vigorously. During my rant, sometimes there are a couple people that come in, but I mean, I would say like 95% of our chat is super positive.
I mean, I kind of put a high percent on there. I just mean like I've seen like just as far as like lately with like the Caleb stuff, like people completely
like IG.
Like, there's a lot of people out there.
I'd say more so on IG comments or something, yeah. But you know what's funny is you could come out and say something like, you know, hey, I think Diggs is going to get traded, and then I get nothing but, you know, especially on like Instagram or in Twitter comments, and then there's like a 10% of people maybe on YouTube in comments in the live stream that'll be like, Diggs can't get traded, the money won't allow it, Smitty. You know, this isn't going to happen. And then he gets traded. That person never comes.
Yeah, that happened with the Diggs trade. Literally, like hours before he got traded, there was a guy in the comments that was like, "You need to chill out, bro. Like he just does that to get to people's people's heads."
Yeah,
and then
Smitty's here just for clicks and views. Like, correct. Like I don't have a show to have 4 people watching. Like the goal is to actually grow it. But I don't, you're not going to get anywhere in this business by crying wolf and creating fake stuff. Like, I never create fake stuff. I don't fabricate anything. And usually when I go live on a breaking news show specifically, there's a piece of news or buzz I'm referencing, and I'm either shooting it down, agreeing with it, or just speculating around it in case it happens. We're all prepared for the landing spot, or what if it, like, and it's weird that people don't, you know, this guy's creating this just for like, you know, clicks, and he's just making stuff up. Like, those people they're not looking at anything. They obviously have zero clue as to what I'm doing, or they would say, oh, well, he's addressing this. Like, if something pops up and I'm getting 100 DMs in 2 minutes, you know, not that I can even read them all, but comments everywhere, YouTube, everything, a combined of 100 reach outs from Twitter, Instagram, emails, texts from buddies, and I get flooded with something like 100 in like 2-3 minutes. Clearly people want to hear about it. So that's an instinct of mine to say, might as well go live on this. Everybody's wondering. I'll either shoot it down, digest it live. I don't even know what I'm going to say yet. But there's news about this, and we go live on it. I'm not 100% right. A lot of times I even tell you my projection for Alvin Kamara, the league probably won't do anything. And then sure enough, what I think should happen, what I predict could happen, doesn't happen. And I don't feel bad about it. We're a lot of times using logic. The Lamar Jackson franchise tag. The guy's going to be gone. Nobody even inquired. Like, sometimes we're going to hit it, sometimes we're going to miss it. Diggs going to get traded. He gets traded. It's speculation season. Smoke is all around. I don't think anybody comes away from a show. At least my goal is to come away from a show ever saying, oh, he missed on this, so I'm not watching anymore. I want them to say, hey, we had some good convo. We talked about these potential scenarios. If they happened, I was prepared. And if it went this way, I was still prepared because we talked about the flip side. You know, we talked about Diggs getting traded and Diggs not getting traded. So anybody watching those live streams was prepared on both sides of that. Like, that's really what my objective is to make every show valuable, no matter if I'm hitting on this, hitting on that. And it's also a place to come hear about all of the news. Like, you know, you don't regret watching a political show about a certain angle of politics, and then the election happens, it doesn't go that way, and you're like, I regret every watching hour I have toward that show because my guy didn't get elected. Like, that's the way I look at this. And I know some people don't understand that. A lot of it's rooted in jealousy and hatred, you know, where people want to come in and just hate. I don't know. It's fine. You know, I give them a hug. I try and kill them with kindness. I try and get them to swing around. Some of the biggest haters have become absolute fans of the show. It's been weird. But I always try and give people another chance, like that guy, John. Was it this guy, John? Or who was the guy in the beginning of the show that came in with some total attitude? Was it him? Was it John? Who was it? He kept telling me to shut the F up. He's like, he came in and he's like, shut the F up. Stop talking about Aiyuk. Shut the F up. And I blocked him for a second, then I unblocked him. And I said, hey, change your attitude. And then I don't think, maybe he did continue. I don't know. I haven't even looked. But like, you know, what's that all about? Like, why even be here if that's how you feel about me and my content? Hey, appreciate you. Call your boy loud. I got to jump.
Alrighty.
Donnie says, are you going to do a draft party? Yes, absolutely. I'll be live the entirety of the first round and probably the entirety of day 2 as well. Donnie, I'm sorry it took me so long to respond to that. Donnie, you still here? All right, I got to go quickly, guys. So rock out. I know I haven't gone to you yet, but quick as you can. Go ahead, bro. Appreciate you.
Yeah. Who would you try to get for Chubb? No one really wants to get him, basically.
Trying
to find a trade for him. Need a wide receiver.
The players that are hard to get rid of, it's best to throw in just to get a tiny upgrade. So let's say you've got Brock Purdy and you want Joe Burrow, or you got Brock Purdy and you want Jalen Hurts, or you got a quarterback then you just throw him in to get the upgrade to get the player you want. Let's say you've got St. Brown and you want Jamar Chase, you throw him in. Let's say you got DJ Moore and you want Puka Nacua. Or let's say even better, you want Achane or Kyron and you've got a third round kind of running back, you throw him in just to get it done. There's really no player for player swap I can think of other than like draft capital. You get like a late first rounder, top of round 2, and you try and get someone to overpay, and then you try and grab a Malachi Corley, a Leggett, a Braylon Allen, somebody to replace him with. Nick Chubb has very little value to me, but you never know if he can come out and have another 6 months or something of production. But that knee is going to be arthritic in a matter of days of playing on it. This is like Todd Gurley's knee times 10. You know, the damage.
I'm trying to get rid of him.
Yeah, but I think your best bet is to dilute the risk of getting him in you give 2 players away for 1 slightly better overall player. That way somebody looks at, because if you try and trade him 1 for 1, the onus is on Chubb. You're going to be like, I don't believe in him. But if you throw Chubb into a quarterback trade, you get the person going, man, not even really a quarterback downgrade in my opinion, and I get Chubb. What if Chubb bounces back? So you got to get in their head psychology-wise, and that's how you do it.
I could throw
monitor the news too. Like if they say like, oh, he's gonna be ready for the regular season, try to, if you can build it off some good news and sell it that way.
All right, hey, got to go. Rock out. Appreciate you, bro. Call in tonight. We'll be live.
All right.
Later.
Cool.
Kilpatrick, 20 seconds. Go.
Hey, Smitty. Really quick. I know Christian Watson was hurt all year. How do you see him finishing this year? You think if he stays healthy, he's going to reach the potential we thought he was going to hit?
I think that 2 of the bigger sleepers will be, and I'm talking like dirt cheap, double-digit rounds, Christian Watson, Jahan Dotson. I think one of the 2, not both of them necessarily, but one of the 2 will actually kind of prove their worth again. Dotson's like route tree and all the metrics were actually really good last year. And somehow Dotson just didn't perform. I don't know what it was about the balls thrown to him, but his routes were actually all of his data was fine. It was almost like when you saw Dotson's end of the season totals, you were like, what in the hell? Someone actually dragged the wrong column over on the spreadsheet because the routes and all the data looked like this guy should have had 1,400 yards and 8 touchdowns. So Christian Watson, it comes down to his hammies, bro. Like, he supposedly worked on it in the offseason, found the root of the problem. Maybe his part nutrition and working out, I think, is what they... I don't know. I would just say he's a great gamble, but, like, don't start him. Don't count on him. Jaden Daniels is the number one. I think Luke Musgrave is going to explode. And so he's really going to try and work his way back in as the third potential option. Some might say Dobbs is better than him right now. Who knows? But I love him as a double-digit round stab in the dark. Sure. Dotson, too. All right. Hey, call back tonight, Kilpatrick. Appreciate you. Travis and Ron, you guys got anything else, either one of you?
Just real quick, I meant to ask last night, if, say the Cardinals make some trade, the Cardinals end up with Odunze, and Harrison goes to the Giants in a bad situation, does that change? Would you take Odunze over Harrison in Dynasty, or are you still going Harrison in Dynasty?
I'd have to be on the clock. I will tell you that Odunze, and I think I've mapped this out before, and I've said Marvin Harrison is still a lean, but I think right now, if let's say Odunze was in Buffalo or Arizona, and MHJ was in New York, I would strongly consider trading down one pick to get Odunze, is what I probably would recommend and do. And worst case scenario, if somebody felt the same way, I get Marvin Harrison at 2 and I got something, then fine, I'll take the risk. But I certainly wouldn't just draft it. I think you would move down one pick, take the gamble, and if they make the decision for you and kick back Marvin Harrison Jr. at 2, then you go with it. But there's no way you can. There's no way you can not take Marvin Harrison Jr. 1 overall. In my opinion, the draft capital makes it to where you can maneuver it. So that would be my answer. Ron, you got anything else?
All
right, Travis, we'll see you tonight.
See you later. Thanks. Bye.
Ron, you asleep? You there?
You coming on tonight?
Yeah, I'll be on tonight at some point.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Cool.
All right, Ron, appreciate your $50 hauler. Nice prediction. I like that you're the first person with the Aiyuk to Pittsburgh on the board. Nobody can take that from you. Ron's got a slew of picks up there that I think are pretty solid this year. So nice work, Ron.
All righty. We'll talk to you later.
Ron and I are Pittsburgh Steelers this year together. This is probably feeling pretty odd for Ron. There's no pushback. Thank God we're not talking Pickett though. All right, later, Ron.
Right. All right, bye.
Small hands, Pickett. now Ron's anti-Pickett. Small hands, Pickett. Coble, $20 hauler.
Alert. Super chat alert. Alert. Super chat alert.
Coble dropping a wad on screen. Coble, appreciate you. Let's see here. Where is Coble's message? Coble says, just for the content, Smitty, bring on the haters. It only creates more support. Hope you stream later tonight. I absolutely will be live later tonight, Coble. Appreciate you dropping that. I want to go live on Dynasty and this main channel here, so make sure you're following me on both channels. I'm on youtube.com/The Fantasy Football Show, which is this channel. I'm on youtube.com/Dynasty Fantasy Football. We're also on Rumble, but we haven't done that in a while. We will be getting back to Rumble. I want to make sure you understand my goal is to. I'll probably be putting, instead of live streaming to Rumble individually, I'll probably be putting all of my individual uploads on there, the smaller ones, not the live streams. But these are the two main channels and focuses, and every show goes on the Spotify channel. So youtube.com/The Fantasy Football Show is this channel. youtube.com/Dynasty Fantasy Football. We'll be going live on both probably later today. Appreciate every single one of you. Thank you to my super chatters. Thank you for the celebratory messages, any gifted memberships anybody dropped. Coble with the $20 hauler. Donnie, Ron Navy with the $50 prediction. Jonathan, Coble, call your boy loud. Coble again. Kilpatrick, Donnie, Coble dropping monster wads. Appreciate you all. See you tonight. Live Monday through Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday, live when big news breaks like this show right here. 2-hour live stream in the books just like that. Boom. See you later.